Hey guys, it's Matt Metacross here with a different kind of Draft League viability for you. This is the Mega Mawile Draft League viability. And here, guess I'm going to explain how I think you should use and how good I think Mega Mawile is in league format. But because it's currently banned in most leagues, I'm also going to discuss why I think it shouldn't be banned. And so I have a unique approach to do that. And you will see how I'm going to do any currently banned mons as kind of my other format for this show. So let's get on with episode 2 of the Draft League Viabilities with Mawile. So here we have just a few options that I don't discuss. Baton Pass, Sub Punch. Baton Pass gives this thing a pivoting option, which is something it doesn't get, otherwise it doesn't get U-turn and it doesn't get Volt Switch. So Baton Pass is a pivoting option for it. Additionally, it does get Sub Punch, which in certain matchups is very viable, but it's a lot based on your opponent's playstyle, the specific team, and your own playstyle. So I did not use it in any of the other sets because it's a very specific set. But anyways, Mega Mawile, the reason that it's so powerful is because if you're looking at the stats over there, you can see it has, well, let's just look straight at the numbers. I'm sure you're all aware, Mega Mawile is a huge power mon, and if you look at that attack stat, and then you double it, holy smokes is this thing hitting hard. 678 attack stat. Holy smokes. And then you look at the bulk. 50 base HP is not great, I'll admit, but 125 base defense, 95 base def. This thing's tanking a ton of hits. Special attack, not great. Speed, not great. You're not going to use it as a special attacker, and this is the EV spread I use for all my sets. This is the EV spread I recommend using for most of your spreads, at least as a start. Now, obviously adjust it to the matchup. You will need to run calcs, see if you want them into one side of the defense. Maybe your opponent has almost entirely one-sided attacking, and then your speed, you might want to speed creep a slower mon on your opponent's team, like say maybe like my UTL team. I've got a Reuniclus. You might want to speed creep my Reuniclus just to be safe. But usually this is going to be your EV spread for any set. And its typing is pretty much what makes this thing what it is. What was typing in its bulk stats, because although it can't outspeed everything, it can take hits from almost anything and break whatever it's going after. So, anyways, moving on into the first actual set I've got for you guys, which is the standard Swords Dance, Sucker Punch, Play Rough. Well, the moves depend on your matchup, obviously. But yeah, Swords Dance, Sucker Punch is this thing's bread and butter. And if you can, against any team you can run this against, it's going to just wreck house. Usually, your opponent has 2 checks for your Mawile. A Steel type and a Fire type. So, your issue is going to be that this thing doesn't get Earthquake. I will say this till the end of time. If Mega Mawile had Earthquake, it would be instantly broken. Because being able to run Stab Move plus Earthquake would make a lot of teams drop to this thing instantly. However, as it is, you sometimes have trouble breaking one of your opponent's walls. Now, if your opponent has a Steel type that's not great against Mega Mawile, say it's a Lucario, so it has a dual typing of fighting, which is weak to fairy, or it's a Magearna, which is neutral to steel, then you only need Stone Edge to hit their fire type. Or say their fire type is neutral to fairy or steel. Often it'll be fairy because there's a lot of firefighting types out there. Then you can run, say, Brick Break and nuke it. Now, Substitute can also be used on any of these sets. Say over Sucker Punch, you can run Substitute. But there's nothing. If there's nothing stopping this set, this is the reason that Mega Mawile is feared. Nothing can really beat this set unless it's a dedicated check. And sometimes your opponent may not have that dedicated check. So moving on into the next set, you will see that we have a 3 attack set. You can also run 4 attacks. And the 3 attack set, I chose to run Stealth Rock because you may not have a great rocker on your team. So sometimes Mega Mawile running rocks isn't the worst thing in the universe. But Mega Mawile gets a pretty good support moveset. If you have any other support move you'd rather run, then you can slide it into that Stealth Rock slot. I chose to go Iron Head to show off its other stab, Fire Fang and Thunder Punch to show off some extra coverage it gets. Like I said, it also gets Brick Break. Sub Punch actually is a great 3 attack set. If you're comfortable with that. Now, I know a lot of people that aren't comfortable running Sub Punch on anything. So that may not be your thing. That may not be an option you want to go with. This thing also gets Taunt, I believe Thunder Wave. Toxic can break down, say, a bulky water this thing can't handle. There's just a lot of mons where the Mega Mawile can't quite break an entire team with 2 moves, excluding Sucker Punch, because sometimes their check is, say, a Victini, which Sucker Punch nukes, so you don't need to run a coverage move outside of it. But yeah, Mawile has such interesting coverage options that I'd say these 2 are the best sets. 3 attacks with a support move, or 2 attacks SD Sucker Punch. But there's also Sub Swords Dance, there's Sub Punch, there's a lot of great sets you can run. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to jump into a few sample sets for Mega Mawile. What these are is they're based on the top 3 drafts in the UTL. Because if Mega Mawile can break a top draft, then yeah, it's broken. But, these are teams that weren't drafted specifically for Mega Mawile, which means that they won't have a dedicated check built in. So I think it's a great way to see whether Mega Mawile will be able to mesh into the format. So first team we see here is the Toronto Blue Flares. Now you will see I am using UTL teams because the UTL is a very balanced league, especially in terms of its drafts. I think the tiers in the UTL are better than the tiers anywhere else. It's showdown, so all the megas are allowed, which helps with the balance issue. And yeah, the UTL is just a great platform to do this on. So as you can see, here I can freely run Sucker Punch Swords Dance because I'm looking at my opponent's team. If I run Play Rough as Stab, then I hit everything but Victini, which I can hit with Sucker Punch. Ferrothorn, which I can hit with Fire Fang. And that's it. He has his 2 checks, and one of them is weak to Sucker Punch. That means that I can run Swords Dance, Sucker Punch, 2 attacks. Which, like I've said before, is Mega Mawile's bread and butter. This means it gets its priority, it gets its setup, and it gets its 2 breaker moves. The Toronto Blue Flares would have a very hard time dealing with Mega Mawile. That being said, a substitute Victini would demolish this Mawile set. along with Roar Milotic being an issue. Thunderous could be, depending on its set. Same with Crocodile, if it's a Z move, because we don't have Z captains in this league, anything uses Z move. So yeah, I mean, there's still checks to this Mega Mawile set. There's no outright counters, but there are checks, which means even the blue flares, which again Mega Mawile gets to run its bread and butter set against, there's a lot of counterplay here, so I can't say that it's an auto loss. So anyways, I do have a mistake on this set. This should be Play Rough, not Ironhead. But looking at the set with Play Rough instead of Ironhead, you will see that Play Rough does a decent amount to his team. But then you look at how much resists it. First off, Ice Punch, you need to have that for the Nidoqueen. You need Thunder Punch for Skarmory. And let's see here, what else was there? Oh yeah, Charizard gets Will-O-Wisp, and a bulky Zard could really hurt a Mawile. So you need to be able to OHKO any Will-O-Wisper your opponent has, which is a very big drawback to Mawile. So you need Stone Edge. Your opponent cannot stay in and Will-O-Wisp you with a Charizard. Otherwise, you are screwed. So, that's this set. Now, you'll see it does have the ability to break anything on the opponent's team. However, the opponent does have a lot of things that could potentially revenge it. He also has Spike stacking with Skarmory, which does hurt Mega Mawile. So, moving into the last set I have for you, we have the Surrey Gliscorchers. Now, what I did do, if you didn't notice, was these are the top 3 teams from Beardy Bennett's power rankings. Gliscorchers are second, the Shelmets are first, and the Blue Flares are third. Now, you look at this team, first thing you notice, you need Brick Break for Magnezone. Ironhead is the better stab in this case because of the Clefable, which is always something you probably need to break. You need Stone Edge for the Salazzle, and you need Ice Punch for the Donphan, because otherwise Ironhead does not 2-hit KO. Now, depending on what you're worried about, you could run Play Rough against this team. This is the rare team that Mega Mawile cannot break with 4 moves. Either you can't quite break the Clefable, or you can't quite break the Slowking. So this is actually a time when Mawile actually is a bad matchup against the opponent's team. I personally probably wouldn't even bring Mawile to this match against the Gliscorchers, because you can't hit the entire opposing team, and it has Donphan, Salazzle, and potentially Tauros to break you. So I really don't like Mawile's matchup here. And yeah, it's kind of interesting that this happened. So moving in, I have a little statistic to show you guys. So credit for this pie chart goes to KMJ Next. His links will be down in the description below. Check him out. And so this is the viability of Swords Dance. Not counting Sucker Punch, you need 2 attacks on 4 teams, 3 attacks on 8 teams, which is half the league, and 4 attacks on another 4 teams in the league, which means only 2 teams can you run Swords Dance, Sucker Punch. 8 of them you can run Swords Dance without Sucker Punch or Sub or Stealth Rock or whatever, and 4 of them you have to run 4 attacks. So, anyways, Mega Mawile, yeah, it's definitely a tier 1. It's definitely an A+. Always be sure to draft a ground type if your league does allow it, because it needs the ground type to break certain things. But no, it's not broken. I think it should be allowed, and that's just my thoughts on the matter. Feel free to discuss in the comments below. Leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed, and see you guys next time. Matt Metagross signing out.